Rain tapped against the windows of the River King while I tried to steady my breathing. My name is Allison Hayes, and that night I was running on fear and caffeine. I carried 3 plates on my arm and kept checking my phone every few seconds. My daughter's babysitter had texted twice. Grace's fever was rising again. Each vibration against my hip made my heart drop. I forced a smile as I served a group of lawyers, but my mind stayed on my little girl struggling to breathe at home. The medical bills from her rare lung condition were drowning me. Double shifts, no sleep, no rest. That restaurant was all I had to keep us afloat. That was when I saw him, Lucas Montgomery. He didn't shout or command attention. He didn't need to. People around him just moved softer, spoke quieter, like the air changed when he walked through it. His charcoal suit fit him like it had been stitched onto his body. His calm eyes scanned every corner of the dining room, sharp and calculating. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the stranger near the bar. He didn't fit. Nervous eyes, trembling hand brushing the inside of his jacket again and again. His attention locked on the staircase leading to the private mezzanine, where Lucas was heading for a meeting. Something was wrong. I felt it in my bones. I carried the coffee pot upstairs, walking past men whose suits cost more than my yearly rent. They kept their voices polite, but I could feel the tension in the air. Lucas stood at the head of the table, speaking in clipped, calm sentences that felt like velvet wrapped around steel. I turned to pour coffee, and saw the stranger rise from his seat below. His fingers closed around something metallic. A gun. Before fear could freeze me, I made a choice I didn't have time to think through. I pretended to stumble. My hand jerked. Hot coffee spilled forward and splashed onto Lucas's perfect suit. He spun toward me, shocked, fury in his eyes, and his guards moved instantly, hands under their jackets. For a heartbeat, I thought I had ruined my life. Then Lucas noticed my eyes flick toward the staircase. He followed my gaze. The stranger fled. Lucas's expression changed so fast I barely caught it. Fury to confusion. Confusion to something sharper. He grabbed my wrist, but not harshly. His voice dropped low enough that only I could hear it. "You just ruined a suit worth more than your month's salary," he said, "but something tells me I should thank you instead." My manager stuttered apologies, begging Lucas not to fire me. Lucas didn't even look at him. He only looked at me. "Tell me why you did it," he said softly, "and don't lie to me." My phone buzzed again. Grace. Fever. My heart squeezed. I swallowed. "There was a man with a gun aimed at your back," I whispered. Lucas went still. Completely still. Not afraid. Not surprised. But something shifted in his eyes. He released my wrist slowly. His fingers brushed my skin in a way that made me shiver. "Go home after your shift," he said quietly. "Don't talk to anyone about this. Expect a visitor tonight." Visitor, not a request, a command. When I got home, Grace was sleeping on the couch, her breathing shallow. I paced the living room, checking the blinds every few minutes. Fear coiled in my stomach. Who was coming? Why did he send someone? What had I dragged us into? At exactly midnight, 3 soft knocks sounded at the door. My heart hammered. When I opened it, Lucas Montgomery stood in the hallway. Rain dripped from his black overcoat. His presence filled the narrow space. "You saw a threat my own men missed," he said, stepping inside like he owned the air around him. "Which makes you either very observant or very involved. Which one is it, Allison Hayes?" Before I could speak, a small cough broke the tension. Grace stood in the doorway of her room, tiny and pale in her dinosaur pajamas, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy, my chest hurts again," she whispered. "Is this your friend from the restaurant?" Lucas turned, and for the first time, something human slipped through his perfect mask. He knelt in front of her. "Your mom saved my life tonight," he said gently. "She spilled coffee on me to stop a very bad man." Grace stared at him, blinking through her struggle for air. Lucas watched her breathing like he recognized every sound. "She has pulmonary arterial hypertension," I said quietly. "It's rare and expensive to treat." He stood slowly, his eyes moving from Grace to me, putting pieces together. "My double shifts, my panic, my fear. Pack essentials for both of you," he said, pulling out his phone. My rivals saw your face. You and your daughter are now leverage against me. I'm not going anywhere with a stranger, I said, standing between him and Grace. You don't have a choice, he replied calmly. They will come for you by morning. And in that moment, looking into those cold blue eyes, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't threatening me. He was warning me. I didn't want to trust him. Every instinct told me to keep my daughter far away from a man like Lucas Montgomery. But the way he watched Grace breathe, the way his jaw tightened with concern he tried to hide, made it hard to step back. He wasn't acting like a man who needed leverage. He was acting like someone who understood exactly how fragile every breath could be. Still, I stood my ground. We're not leaving, I insisted, my voice shaking even though I tried to keep it steady. You can't just walk into my home and... I can, he cut in quietly. And I am. Before I could argue, he pulled a file from inside his coat and handed it to me. My stomach dropped when I saw Grace's medical records inside. Every prescription, every specialist visit, even the hospital notes. You're threatening me with my own daughter's condition? I asked, my voice breaking with anger. I'm showing you I understand exactly what you're fighting, he replied, and that I can help in ways no one else can. I hated how much I wanted to believe that. The next thing I knew, we were inside his mansion. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. Marble floors, high ceilings, security everywhere. It felt like stepping into another world. Grace clung to my hand, her eyes wide as she looked around the garden outside our window. Her oxygen tank trailing behind her made the sight almost painful. She's safe here, Lucas said from the doorway, his voice softer now. My doctor already reviewed her case. I turned toward him. What do you expect from me? His smile had an edge. Your life changed the moment you spilled that coffee. The Donati family believes you're connected to me now. They'll use that, so I intend to make your connection real. I felt my stomach twist. And what does that mean? You'll work for my charitable foundation, he replied, walking closer. Nothing illegal, flexible hours. A salary that covers everything Grace needs. I stared at him, unable to speak. He wasn't joking, he wasn't bribing. He was rewriting my entire life with a few quiet words. Why me? I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked to the window and watched Grace exploring the garden. Because your daughter reminds me of someone I failed to save, he finally said. His voice wasn't cold anymore. It was something close to grief. Someone who fought to breathe just like she does. I felt the air shift between us. I didn't know what to say. 3 weeks later, everything happened fast. I was settling into my new role at the foundation when my phone rang with the school's number. Grace's oxygen levels had dropped in class. Her fever spiked. The nurse sounded scared. My heart stopped. Before I could grab my purse, Lucas appeared in my doorway like he had felt the panic through the walls. My driver is outside. We'll reach her faster than an ambulance. At the hospital, doctors rushed around Grace while she gasped for breath. Alarms beeped. Needles flashed. I stood frozen, unable to move. Lucas stayed beside me, his hand steady at my back. My younger brother had cystic fibrosis, he said quietly, eyes never leaving Grace. I know what it feels like to watch someone fight for air. I won't let that happen to her alone. His words sank into me like something heavy and painful and honest. Hours later, Dr. Novak came out with news that made my knees weaken. Grace was responding to a treatment usually reserved for adults. An experimental one I could never have afforded. She's stable, he said, for now. Relief nearly shattered me. But it didn't last long. Lucas received an encrypted message. His expression darkened. What is it? I asked. Someone in the hospital tipped off the Donati family, he said in a low voice. They know she's here, and they're watching. Fear surged through me, not for myself, for Grace. By the next morning, everything changed again. Security pushed into Grace's room with tablets showing surveillance photos, pictures of us leaving the hospital, timestamps, close-ups of her oxygen equipment. "They've been tracking you for weeks," Lucas said, anger burning beneath every word. "We're leaving the mansion tonight. The lake house is safer." But before we could move, alarms blared. Gunfire erupted outside. Lucas grabbed me and pushed me toward a hidden door behind the library shelves. "Get Grace," he ordered, his voice deep and urgent. "Stay inside until I send for you. Don't open the door for anyone else." I held Grace tight as we huddled inside the panic room, watching the mansion's camera feeds. Men swarmed the property. Lucas fought in the distance, firing with calm precision while protecting his home. Grace trembled beside me. "Is Mr. Lucas going to be okay?" she whispered. "He promised to teach me chess tomorrow." I pulled her close, my heart aching. "I don't know," I whispered, "but he's fighting for us." Hours later, a message finally came through. Coordinates, one line. "Service tunnel. Now." The escape was terrifying. Dark tunnels, whispers of danger behind us, a driver with a blood-soaked shoulder pulling us into the car. When Lucas finally arrived at the lake house hours later, his face bruised and blood streaking his hair, something inside me cracked. "You should never have met me," he said quietly. But I shook my head, my voice trembling. "You saved her. You saved us both." The moonlight hit his eyes then, and for the first time, I saw the man behind the legend. Not a crime boss, not a threat. A man carrying too many ghosts. And for reasons I couldn't explain, I stepped closer. The lake house felt like another world. Quiet, hidden, wrapped in tall trees and soft wind. But even there, danger followed us like a shadow. Lucas's security team moved through the property with tense urgency. Grace slept in the next room, her breathing steadier after her medication, while I stood with Lucas at the kitchen counter. "You saved her life tonight," I said softly. He shook his head. "She fought for it. I only opened the door." He looked exhausted, not physically, but deep in a way that made my chest tighten. I had seen Lucas angry, controlled, strategic, but this was the first time I'd seen him vulnerable. "Your brother," I whispered. "You said he had cystic fibrosis. Is that why you reacted so fast with Grace?" Lucas looked toward the bedroom where she slept. His jaw tightened. "He died at 14, he said quietly. "He wanted to run, to swim, to be normal. I watched him fight for every breath until the end. Money couldn't save him. Power didn't matter. I swore if I ever saw someone fighting like he did, I wouldn't stand on the sidelines again." The way he said it made something inside me shift. It wasn't pity. It was connection, pain, recognizing pain. Over the next few days, something unexpected happened. Lucas kept his promise to teach Grace chess. She sat at the table with her oxygen tubes, excited and focused, and he guided her through every move with patience that softened every hard line in him. "Check," she announced proudly. He laughed, a warm sound I never expected to hear from a man like him. "Very good." I watched from the doorway, my heart breaking and healing at the same time. Grace wasn't scared of him. She liked him, trusted him. And against my better judgment, I did too. But peace never lasted long in Lucas's world. His security chief arrived with surveillance photos spread across the dining table. Men watching the hospital, watching the mansion, watching us. Even photos of Grace's medical equipment through windows. My stomach dropped. "They've been following you for weeks," Lucas said. "Why?" I whispered. "Because you matter to me," he said simply, "which makes you a target." His honesty froze me. That night, alarms blared again, this time from the lake house perimeter. Security footage showed armed men approaching through the woods. "We can't move Grace," I whispered to Lucas. "Dr. Novak said she needs 12 hours for the medication to stabilize her." "I know," he said. "Which means we're staying here and defending this property." His voice was calm, determined, deadly. We went over emergency routes, safe zones, escape plans. His shoulder brushed mine as we leaned over the property map. His hand steadied mine when fear made it tremble. "When this all began, I thought you were a monster," I whispered. "And now?" he asked. "Now I think you're the man who would die to protect us." He didn't answer. he didn't have to. Our first kiss happened like the world around us finally pushed us together. Soft at first, then desperate. His hands framed my face gently, like he was scared I'd break. I held on to him like he was the only solid ground I had left. When we finally pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. "This complicates everything," he whispered. "I know, but I don't want simple. I want worthwhile." Morning came heavy and tense. Grace improved enough to move, so we prepared to evacuate. Lucas checked every angle, every window, every guard station, even bruised and bleeding. He was still the strongest force in the room. "We have a plan," he said. "We're moving you and Grace to a secure location near Seattle. You'll stay with your sister." "My sister?" I asked in confusion. "Lucas, I haven't spoken to her in years." "I know," he said. "I found her. I checked the hospital nearby. It's one of the best for Grace's condition." My heart twisted. He had dug into my past, into my family, my life. "How did you know about her?" I asked quietly. Lucas hesitated, and that hesitation scared me more than anything. "Standard background search," he said, "given the risk." Before I could push further, his phone buzzed. His expression changed instantly. "Activate Protocol Blackwater." He ordered his team. The lake house exploded into motion. Guards sprinted to stations. Lights dimmed. Barricades dropped from the ceilings. Lucas pulled us toward a panic room behind the fireplace. "There's a mole inside my organization," he said. "Someone has been feeding Donati information for months. They know our plans. They know everything." Grace clung to me as Lucas sealed us inside. My heart pounded as he showed us the thermal imaging on the monitor. Vehicles approaching. Armed men advancing through the woods. "They're going to ambush us at the landing site," he said. "But they made a mistake." "What mistake?" I asked, breath shaking. "They underestimated you." Before I could ask what he meant, the screen shifted to a new camera angle. Lucas's most trusted lieutenant meeting with Donati's security chief. My blood ran cold. "Your accountant?" I whispered. "He betrayed you?" Lucas nodded, pain flashing across his eyes. "He had access to everything: security, finances, contingencies." I felt my stomach drop. "Then how can we trust anything now?" "Because," Lucas said, opening a hidden compartment of passports and documents, "these plans were created long before I met you. They exist outside my organization." He touched my cheek, firm, gentle. "I will get you both out," he whispered, "even if I don't make it." Fear surged through me. "Don't say that." But he didn't answer. He only kissed Grace on the forehead through her curls. Then he left the panic room and locked the door behind him. Hours later, I watched him walk alone into the night toward the gateway arch for a face-to-face meeting with the Donati boss. No guards, no backup, just one man standing against a lifetime of enemies. And for the first time since this began, I realized the truth. Lucas wasn't fighting a war anymore. He was fighting for us. From the hidden surveillance van near the gateway arch, I watched Lucas walk alone into the empty plaza. The night air shimmered with a thin layer of rain, soft but cold, turning the ground into a sheet of glistening silver. He looked calm, too calm, like a man who had already accepted every possible ending. "Why is he alone?" I whispered, fear choking me. His security chief answered quietly, "Because Donati demanded it. And because Lucas wants their eyes on him, not on you and Grace." Quote. My heart clenched so hard it hurt. Donati stepped out of a black SUV across the plaza, tall, broad, surrounded by men who looked ready to shoot at the slightest twitch. His laugh echoed as rain dripped from his coat. "Bold move coming alone," Donati called out. "Especially after what your people did to my nephew." Lucas didn't flinch, not once. He stood like stone. "I came to talk about the woman and her child," Lucas said. His voice carried across the plaza, steady and deep. "They are not part of this." "You made them part of it," Donati shouted back. "You moved them into your house. You protected them. You made them your weakness." Hearing that made my breath catch in my throat. Lucas's voice didn't waver. "I'm offering territory, real territory. Warehouse districts. shipping lanes, in exchange for your word that Allison and Grace remain untouched. Donati stared at him, shocked and amused all at once. You'd surrender millions in revenue for a waitress? Lucas didn't move, didn't blink. Donati paced around him like a vulture circling prey. I have a counteroffer, he sneered. I take your territories, and I take your retirement from certain ventures. In exchange, I let your new little family keep breathing. My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to run to him, to stop him from giving up pieces of his life for us. But then Donati said the name that froze me. Your accountant, Patrick, has been very valuable. Lucas's jaw tightened. The betrayal sliced through him like a blade. Patrick had managed his businesses for almost a decade. Lucas trusted him, invited him into his home, led him near Grace. He's been feeding me information for months, Donati added, although he had a little accident this afternoon. I covered my mouth, trembling. Before Lucas could respond, Donati lifted a tablet. A live video feed appeared. Grace, sleeping in what was supposed to be a secure medical room. They had found her. Rage and panic surged through me. You broke into a medical facility, Lucas said, the darkness in his voice making even Donati still. That was your last mistake. Red laser dots appeared on Lucas's chest. Snipers. Every instinct inside me screamed. I wanted to bang on the glass, shout, do anything. But Lucas stood without moving. Every muscle coiled. Donati stepped back toward his SUV. This is business, Lucas, and your heart is ruining your business. It happened in seconds. As the snipers prepared to fire, I triggered the plan Lucas and I had created while fleeing the lake house. My fingers hit the command on the secure tablet. Every light in the plaza went out. The gateway arch went dark. Streetlights died. The entire block plunged into blackness. Gunfire erupted. Screams followed. Security moved. Police sirens wailed from blocks away. I didn't breathe again until Lucas appeared at the van door, soaked in rain and blood. None of it his. His chest rose and fell with adrenaline, but his eyes found mine the second I stepped out. I didn't wait. I ran straight into him. For the first time since this nightmare began, I let myself fall into his arms. It's over, he whispered against my hair. You're safe. She's safe. Donati won't hurt anyone again. I believed him. 6 months later, the world looked different. I stood at the window of our home near Puget Sound, watching Lucas and Grace build a sandcastle by the water. Grace no longer needed her oxygen tank every day. She could laugh, run, breathe. Her doctors called it a miracle. I called it Lucas. He had walked away from the darkest parts of his empire. He poured his resources into research for children with rare lung conditions. He turned networks meant for crime into networks meant for hope. Headlines now called him a mystery philanthropist instead of a criminal kingpin. Dr. Lansing called. I said when he came up from the beach, Grace's new tests look even better. His arm slid around my waist, warm, protective, mine. The treatment we funded is working, he said. Not just for her, for 16 other kids too. Grace ran up to us, showing Lucas a seashell. It matches your eyes, she said proudly. Lucas smiled down at her, a soft smile I had never seen on him before this new life. Inside, an invitation sat on the counter. The River King. Grand reopening. Under new ownership. Yes, Lucas said, reading my expression. It's time we go back. I nodded. Time to show them we're not afraid. Sunlight hit my engagement ring then. His ring. A promise I still could barely believe was real. We've come a long way, Allison, Lucas whispered, brushing his thumb across my cheek. So have you, I replied. Grace tugged on his sleeve. Daddy, can we finish the sandcastle? He froze. It was the first time she had ever called him that. His eyes softened in a way I will remember for the rest of my life. Yes, he said quietly. I'd like that very much. I watched them run back to the water, my heart full in a way I had never known. Our journey had started with spilled coffee and fear. It ended with peace, family, and a future none of us ever expected. A future worth everything.